I know I have a defined head. It's 6124, channel of awareness, design of a thinker. Ajna, and greatly benefit from soundboarding. I hear some people making the theory of mental projectors having undefined throat, not needing to soundboard, or at least not as much as a defined throat MP. So let's talk about what soundboarding is and what it's not. When we talk about authority, authority has to do with making decisions. Okay. At least that's what Ram meant when he talked about authority. So when we talk about those invitations, those invites are not going to come every day. I mean, if they do, bless you. I don't know. They really don't in reality. So soundboarding is really about, you got an invite. Somebody's inviting you to move to South Africa, or offering a job. Whatever the invite is, that's what we soundboard. Okay? Big decisions. To honor yourself and to align your aura, because it's all about aligning you. It's not about, knowing what you're going to do. You already know what you're going to do. I knew Hawaii was inevitable, even though I screamed and yelled and I thought it was insane. I knew it was inevitable. And so I had to talk to align my own aura so I could walk into that container, because every situation is an energetic container. So to walk into it through the right door in a way, so I could, experience it as myself. Okay. Now, having said that, because we're so open and because we're so mental and because we get lost in other ethers, and I used to channel, I was just like completely living in other ethers for my first, probably, I heard of human design, how old I was I 33, 34? Just lost in ethers completely. Bitter, sour, nearly suicidal. I was just not working for me. And I didn't even know it. So to really ground in the body and really get out of that, ungrounding mental state and getting lost in all the beliefs and illusions and whatever. Because remember, not one single person on this planet sees reality for what it is. Nobody. You see and you filter through our energetic makeup, which is your design, right? So we all in our little movie, in a little bubble, and we think we have all the answers, or we think we know, we really don't. And so how not to get stuck in it, right? We speak, we soundboard. So for example, something happened to me a couple of days ago, and it really shook me up. It really was very jarring to my system. And me having the 6124, in my mind, I kept running the scenario over and over and over and over. I went to the beach, I went swimming, I came back home, and I could not stop. 24 hours later, I was still reliving the same thing. It started to drive me insane until I had to call my friend and said, can you bear with me? I just need to talk about it, and maybe this will help. And guess what happened? Gone. As soon as I spoke it and just let it all out, right? The mental pressure went down, because remember, the head centers the pressure, and it's all stuck right here. Right? So meditating, being quiet, it's not working. As soon as I spoke about it and I talked about it, the pressure went down and it was gone. It kind of came back a little bit, but then it didn't have that charge. So that's venting. Now, was I making a decision? Not really. I mean, sometimes it happens that when we speak or when I speak, it kind of becomes obvious something. I still don't take action because there's no invitation, right? It's like there's awareness of something, because that's my definition. Every channel is going to operate a little different. So that's what I called venting. It's not the same as soundboarding, because I'm technically not really making a decision. It's really, we're here to talk to friends. The biggest dilemma is, who do we talk to? That's the biggest dilemma. Also, stepping out from our ego. Up until human design, nobody, my closest friends did not know what I did for a living. I was very secretive, very secretive. I had a relationship for 6 years. Nobody knew about it. Nobody. One friend knew, kind of felt little parts of it. I just felt it was nobody's business. And I didn't want everybody's opinions and judgments, or whatever they think about it. And I could even think if they, whatever they're thinking, and I was really hypersensitive to it. And I was just like, no, I'm going to be mystery. And then I realized that's not how I'm wired. So for me to start speaking, it was not an easy shift. And I was very uncomfortable. And I burned down many times because of the gossips and their judgments. And things got better, along the way. But when I say about it, it was not an easy shift for me. But it was a major shift in my life when I started doing it. Major. So many revelations, so many things just happened that I probably would never known if I was just mute, and I would probably be still very bitter. Because that's one thing we're here to do, shift frequencies. Bitterness is not a life course. It's not like we're here to be bitter for the rest of our life. Bitterness is the theme of the not self. It's not a theme of a projector. And some courses say that, and it really pisses me off. I won't say names. But they write theme is a bitterness. Generator's theme is frustration. What does that do? That programs us. Oh, you're here to be bitter. No, we're not. We're bitter if we're not self. We're bitter if we live through life being silent and quiet and thinking, whatever we're thinking. So we're here to shift that into success. Success has nothing to do with money or being famous, or self-recognition, like recognizing the frequency and shifting into sweetness. That's what I became aware of. In 2013, when I started experiencing sweetness, nobody talked about sweetness. The word was not known, but I felt it. I was still miserable in a way. My life was still in ruins. But I woke up and I could taste sweetness. My life felt like a cupcake. I look out the window and I was like, oh my God, everything is so sweet. I said that to Genoa because he came to pick me up. We were going to the study group. And I said that to him. I said, it's really weird. My car is broken. That's why he came to pick me up. I have $2 in my bank account. I have no job. I'm a mess. But I feel like it's sweet. And he started laughing. Like, I never heard a projector say that. I was like, me neither. But that's what I'm saying. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just a transit, maybe it's just going to pass. So I didn't buy it. I was like, yeah, whatever. Then it kept staying and staying. And so when I would lose that sweetness or that gratitude and saying, oh my God, it's so beautiful, I know I would shift into the bitterness and say, okay, well, am I initiating? I have some expectations, stuff like that. So shifting frequency. Oh, and so is there a difference with the defined throat mental projectors? So I have open throat center. As much as I need to talk, if something rattles me, I have to be quiet. Sometimes 2 days go by and I don't say the word out loud. I don't have to. I don't want to. I text. I can text. I can read. I can listen to people. I do not want to speak. I just feel like there's no juice in my throat. That's why my classes and groups are kind of short, 1 hour, 2 hours, because if I go over 2 hours, 2 hours is maximum for me. I start losing my voice. I get really, really tired and my throat just shuts down. My readings ends exactly 1 hour. And some of you probably know. I go maybe 5 minutes over, but it literally, my body shuts down, just stops, zips, like transmission, and then I'm done. You will not make me to go over, and won't shy away saying, no, honey, I'm done. You want to talk more, we'll talk next week, but right now I'm done. With defined throats, I notice that they do talk more than I do, or they have the need maybe to talk more. I don't. So there's like very, very slight difference, but the soundboarding process itself is the same. Okay, so then I remember there was one question about, do we need to wait 29 days, right? It was more in the post on the question, but I remember that. That mental projectors need to wait 29 days or 28 days, like reflectors. No, we don't. We really don't. Some decisions do take more time. Like for me to move to Hawaii or to go back to college was not a quick decision to make. It took years. I mean, I'm sorry, not years. It took days, it took weeks. It did not take. I mean, maybe a couple of months before I booked a flight, but it was just sounded so ridiculous and it was just such a big deal. So it's naturally takes sometimes because but it's not all. We're not reflectors. And we're very, very different from reflectors. There is no center below our throat that we can rely on. That's why it's called no inner authority, but it doesn't say no authority. It says no inner authority. We still have the authority. Every single being on this planet have authority. It just works different because we need the other aura. Who becomes our environment? Right? So the whole environment thing, when people say, environment is very important to us, scientifically, every living organism needs right environment. A bug needs right environment to live. It's stupid. Also, who decides what's right, what's wrong? Please enlighten me. To someone who's a 3-5, what is right and wrong environment? Especially when we come into this knowledge of not self, where everything is like makes us bitter. I don't know. I look back and I think, oh, New York was wrong environment, but I was not self. I don't know. Maybe it was fine. Me who was, distorted. Plus, when we get invitation, right? So you get invitation, somebody says, okay, let's go to South Africa. And you're like, oh my God, the lion will eat me. I'm broken. What I'm going to do, right? The mind is running. So we need to soundboard. So then somebody says, oh, but you need the right environment to soundboard. How are you supposed to find the right environment? Where you go looking? You wait for another invitation to find? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Remember, we attract things and environment through our G center. So when our geometry, when our energetic bubble, our aura aligns, we start pulling in things that are aligning to that, frequency, that there's a frequency match. I don't go looking for anyone. I go looking for freaking Hawaii. Hawaii was one place on earth that I thought I was never going to go to. She's not a very, very little girl. And here I'm invited to come to Hawaii. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And here I am, and I just have to pinch myself every day and think, oh my God, did I die and went to heaven? So when it comes to environment, what the environmental authority means is that we need the aura, because that other aura activates those potential, dormant gates, and that other aura becomes our environment in a way. That's what our environmental means. It's not wet kitchens, it's not the right mountain. Good luck with that. So once we align, once we go through the deconditioning process, we start pulling things in. I work in a freaking medical office. If somebody said that to me 10 years ago, I would have laughed so loud and say, you are out of your mind. I couldn't have one conversation a day because I was exhausted. To see 30 patients plus 8 colleagues every day, 150 in a week, it's insanity. And I don't know, I'm fine. And I know how I'm fine because I'm not bitter. That's my check-in with myself. Am I bitter? Am I exhausted? I mean, I do get tired, don't get me wrong, but I have a good night's sleep. I sleep from 8 to 10 hours, like a good projector. I'm in bed by 9:30. And then I'm ready to go the next day. Okay. So the environment is a big issue, and the one that kind of sometimes like crazy, as you can tell. But I'm doing what I can do, right? I'm speaking on it. I started pushing a little harder when it comes to soundboarding after I burned out a few times back in 2000. I think it was 2013, 14. I was very fortunate to have a big human design community in my life on Kauai when I moved. Very blessed. So I was very supported in my process, and I could soundboard it. And sometimes I would initiate with people who were not very familiar with human design, or they were, but they only thought they were. In reality, they were still not really getting it. And so after opening up and talking about my process, a couple situations got very messy. I'm not going to go into details. It got very messy. It really hurt me. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I live in a small community, and if people who studying human design and know human design, they don't understand my process, what am I going to do in the real world, right? So it really, but it's a third, you know, 3-5. And so then I became more careful and watching who's showing up on my path when I need to process something. And I'll tell you what, there's always somebody if I really need to process something. When the scholarship thing showed up, my friend from Honolulu flew in and she spent 3 days with me, exactly that weekend when I had to make kind of a decision. I mean, I had more time, but like that weekend was very important to me because I had to have a call on Monday. And she was in my aura, and she was someone, you know, that we kind of bouncing things off. So there's always somebody shows up, and then they really kind of ask what they're doing, or somebody calls or reaches out, what's going on, where I could feel, oh, okay, it's like an indirect invitation for me to process and say, do you really want to know what's going on? I'll tell you. And then we talk, we need just like as friends. I don't really speak about that out loud. I don't want to freak people out because, like I say, I'm very radical, but that's how it shows up for me. It works for me. So I don't want to say that you need to wait for someone to show up in order to process, but it worked wonders for me. And I have many stories and invitations to share. We would need another 2 hours.